Well, I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable. Welcome to part 3 of the evidential research document in relation to CERN, the Hadron Collider. In the last few parts of the video, we went back to 1947 and 48 and looked at how important that is in relation to the Israel-Arab War, which was linked to the Balfour Declaration of 1917. We also looked at how that tied in with the creation of the Association of Chief Constables organisation here in the United Kingdom, and how it also tied in with the creation of the Doomsday Clock. We looked at the Fleming organisations and how that links into all of this and connects everything together. And we looked at evidence in relation to the research of the attacks in the Nova Music Festival in Israel on the 7th of October 2023. We also looked at evidence in relation to Julian Assange, or his former name, alias name, of Julian Hawkins, which becomes likely relevant later. And we also looked at information evidence in relation to MK and how that tied in with 1953, which was also the year of the coronation of the Queen, and various other things. So we're now moving forward to 1954, and please verify and corroborate all of the information that I'm showing you, particularly the Companies House registration system. All right, this is such important evidence. This is the government's own registration system, which has legal implications if it is not done legally and lawfully. It has signed documents, and it appears as though the whole lot for the international governments and their organisations is criminal and fraudulent, and they've been using it to exploit and victimise humanity for a very long time, and in particular the children. And we're going to come to that a bit later, because that very likely ties in with CERN and what we're looking at here. So now we're going to specifically look at CERN a little bit, and that was founded in 1954, okay, the year after what we've just been talking about in the last part. And you can see an article on the left here just stating that, and of course it's based in Switzerland, which is where the World Economic Forum also is, which we'll come to in a minute. And here's the symbol, if you like, or the emblem for CERN, and you can see 3 sixes twisted round into that symbol for CERN. The World Economic Forum symbol is here. Now, this was founded in 1971, 2 years after the year that Charles became the Prince of Wales, which is where Companies House is based, and Companies House creates the criminal fraudulent entity companies. 1969, that year, is also the year that supposedly the moon landing happened, okay? And NASA was involved in that. NASA, one letter short of Satan. NASA was founded in 1958, according to the research, the same year when Charles was 9 years old, and he became, or started to be, initiated to become the Prince of Wales in 1969. Of course, 3 years earlier, we had the creation of the Church of Satan, which is very relevant in relation to this. And either side of that, the two most important companies in the fraud, Jordans and Sons Limited and the London Law Agency in 1967. So the World Economic Forum was founded in 1971, and here's the emblems for the World Economic Forum, and you can see it here. And you can see that it has a circle going through the 3 O's. Well, somebody else has picked up on this and separated the O's with the circle through. And here's a screenshot from a video they've done. And you can see it looks like 3 sixes again. 666. And on the right here, here's an image from that video just showing those 3 sixes integrated without the rest of the letters into the circle there. Here's the World Health Organization logo. And obviously this is very relevant in recent years because of the supposed outbreak, which I suspect, in fact, I'm almost certain, that the outbreak and the vaccines was a deception to hide a bigger threat. And many of the people that are supposedly fighting the vaccine, Andrew Bridgen, for example, Steve Forsyth, Dale Vincent, John O'Looney, Mark Sexton, I've been in contact with all of them, and they're refusing to use the obvious evidence that the vaccine companies are criminal, fraudulent entity companies, also linking to Exborn Manor. Okay, and some of them, Andrew Bridgen and John O'Looney, are actually linked to very key companies in relation to this fraud, almost, well, immediately via companies that they're linked to. So this is the emblem for the World Health Organization. And there's actually 6 parts to it. If you don't include the staff in the middle with the snake wrapped around it, there's 6 sections. So there's probably 3 sixes somewhere in this emblem. I haven't researched it and I haven't established that myself. But let's have a look at the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is a specialised agency of the United Nations which coordinates responses to international public health issues and emergencies. Ties in very nicely, doesn't it, with the Association of Chief Constables. Okay, it is headquartered in Geneva in Switzerland as well. So you have the World Economic Forum, okay, as well as the CERN Hadron Collider, and you also have the World Health Organization. And there's another organization that appears to be quite relevant that we're going to look at in a minute. And it has 6 regional offices. So that probably represents the 6 sections within the circle. 150 field offices worldwide, and only sovereign states are eligible to join. It is the largest intergovernmental health organization at international level. Further research on it below, this is in Wikipedia, shows that it was founded in 1948 as well. Okay, so this ties in with the other evidence that we're looking at. And above, you can see that the building, the headquarters in Geneva, was designed by Jean Schumi and inaugurated in 1966. That's the same year as the Church of Satan was founded. As we've said, it's headquartered in Geneva, and its Director General is Tedros Ghebreyesus. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. We'll say Tedros for now. So that's his Director General. Let's have a look at the World Health Organization a little bit more. So the International Sanitary Conferences, the first of which was held on the 23rd of June 1851, were a series of conferences that took place until 1938. Now, 1851 is very close to the creation of Companies House itself. That was supposedly created in 1844. Okay, so this is 7 years later. And then you have this date of 1938, about 87 years. When you read further down, you can see it says the 7th conference in Venice in 1892 finally resulted in a convention. It was concerned only with the sanitary control of shipping traversing the Suez Canal. Now, this is very important because the Suez Canal is key to Egypt, okay, and the trade routes in relation to Egypt. And remember, we've got all these connections to Egypt that you're going to be seeing, but also the link to ISIS companies tying in from Julian Assange to the Flemings and their company CAPB Limited. And the Suez Canal is important because you had the Suez Canal incident, didn't you, a few years ago? Remember when one of the boats got stuck and supposedly stopped trillions of pounds worth of trade? And now the evidence suggests they were. I mean, obviously things are changing because they're now being fully exposed with their sinister plans against humanity, which could ultimately lead to them trying to create a black hole, but we're going to come to that later in relation to CERN. And of course, the Israel war, they're now trying, and the information suggests they're potentially going to build the Ben Gurion Canal going through Gaza, or that was the plan at least, okay? So that's very relevant in relation to all of this, I would think. Other key dates for the World Health Organization. Now, there are other dates obviously on the list, but I found these quite interesting. 1955, the malaria eradication program was launched. 1955 is also the year of the first Disneyland resort in America. Now, this is very important because the evidence that I have suggests a meeting took place in the end of the end of 1950s, early 1960s, at the Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the United Kingdom between Walt Disney and other key individuals, likely or potentially from the real royal family, and potentially murders took place to remove the real royal family around that time. So this is the same year, 1955, that the first Walt Disney Resort was opened in America. And when you look at the research, Blackpool Pleasure Beach was supposedly the influence for Walt Disney in relation to Walt Disney Resorts. In 1958, remember the same year that Prince Charles was started to be initiated at the age of 9 years old to become Prince Charles in 1969. Okay, so we have another link. 1958, Deputy Minister of Health for the USSR called on the World Health Assembly to undertake a global initiative to eradicate smallpox, resulting in resolution. Now, I suspect all of these supposed diseases are falsely created. That's what I suspect. And I suspect the technology is what is creating the illness, and that's what they're trying to cover up, because it seems to me, and the evidence is overwhelming, that is what is being used, and also ties in with COVID in relation to directed energy. In 1965, the first report of diabetes, okay, and the creation of the International Agency for Research on Cancer. 1965 is, as we've said, the creation of Jordan and Sons Limited, the most important company in the fraud, and the year before the Church of Satan was founded. In 1966, the WHO moved its headquarters from the Ariana Wing at the Palace of Nations to a newly constructed headquarters elsewhere in Geneva in Switzerland. That's the same year as the foundation of the Church of Satan. And then in 1967, the WHO intensified the global smallpox eradication campaign by controlling $2.4 million annually to the effort, and adopted a new disease surveillance method. That's the year of the foundation of the London Law Agency, which is now dissolved. So let's look at the head of the World Health Organization, Tedros. And you can see here, he was born, according to this, in 1965, the same year as the foundation of the Jordan and Sons Limited. He is an Ethiopian, a public health official, a researcher, diplomat, and the Director General of the World Health Organization since 2017. Now, this ties in, if you see my research regarding Benjamin Netanyahu, the Iranian leader, and Trump tying in with the royal family, and all linking in to a company of Fleming Co. Limited. That company, Fleming Co. Limited, was founded in 2017 and is now in the process of dissolving, as this evidence is exposed. He is the first African to become WHO Director General, receiving an endorsement for the role by the African Union. And obviously he was linked to the COVID pandemic and dealing with that. Here he is. And further research further down, it says that the name, his surname, is from his grandfather and is not their family name. So he's using an alias name, like pretty much everyone that is involved in this fraud, or many of these people appear to be using alias names. What a great way to avoid the truth, the accountability and liability, okay, by using multiple names. Information I saw the other day suggests Benjamin Netanyahu has used many names, specifically through his educational period in relation to all of this, to his life. Further down, in 1986, Tedros received a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the University of Asmara. He studied at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and was awarded a Master of Science degree in Immunology of Infectious Diseases from the University of London in 1992. In part one, I believe, we mentioned 1991 because it ties into 1992, because 1991 was the end of the Gulf War, and it's when the Terminator 2 movie came out, which is actually very relevant. It's called Judgment Day. It's my favourite movie. And then in 1992, you have the initiation of the digital record creation for Companies House, which is where all of this evidence has been acquired from, okay, where they've been forging the electronic register and the documents to create these criminal entity companies. In 2000, he earned a Doctor of Philosophy in Community Health from the University of Nottingham for research on the effects of dams on malaria transmission in Tigray region. Now, in his early career, according to this, in 1986, after his first degree, Tedros joined the Ethiopian Ministry of Health as a junior public health expert. This is important now because we're going to research this. Tedros joined the Tigray sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Tigray People's Liberation Front. In 2001, the year of the World Trade Center disaster, which ties in and very important in relation to all of this, he was appointed head of the Tigray Regional Health Bureau. In 2003, he was appointed the State Minister, Deputy Minister for Health, a post he held for just over a year. So the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Here's the Tigray War. The Tigray War was an armed conflict that lasted from 3rd of November 2020, okay, when the whole COVID thing is going on with the vaccinations, to the 3rd of November 2022. This is the year that I was making the inquiries in relation to the fraud. And just quickly, those who haven't seen my previous evidence, which I think is important, doesn't tie into this necessarily. But remember, when I found evidence linking into the potential remains of children being put into the food chain through the horse meat scandal and others, that horse meat scandal was in 2013, very likely relevant to following in from 2012 that we're going to talk about in a bit. I then researched a movie called Soylent Green. Soylent Green came out in 1973. It's a movie starring Charlton Heston 2 years after the World Economic Forum. And I didn't even know it was based on a cop who identified international deception linking in to incorporations, okay? And it was about putting putting remains of humans in the food chain. And that movie was based in 2022, the same year that I started making the inquiries through Exbourne Manor. Not only that, that movie was based loosely on a book from 1966. Okay, the same year as the Church of Satan was founded, and that book was based on the year 1999, which is the year that the Church of Satan was re-established after its founder died in 1997, which all becomes relevant. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later. It just made me think of it because the November 2022. So this is key, all right? Now, November 2022, this is the 3rd of November. You're going to see in a minute, we're going to talk about Elon Musk wearing a Baphomet, the symbol of the Church of Satan, to a Halloween party in 2022. And also some other information in relation to Elon. So anyway, this war the timing of it is very interesting. But it involved the Tigray People's Liberation Front, okay? The TPLF in brackets, which is what Tedros was part of. Let's have a look at the Tigray People's Liberation. Well, it was declared as a terrorist organisation by the Ethiopian government during the Tigray War until its removal from the list in 2023. So, just let this sink in. So we have somebody that was part of a terrorist organisation that is in charge of the World Health Organization, that is involved in criminal, fraudulent entity companies creating vaccines to give to the masses. That's all tied in with international fraud and crimes against humanity, and in particular against children, the most innocent of all. Let that sink in, everybody. So on the right, I'm just quickly going to research. I've shown the research here for the regional, what was it called? The Tigray Regional Health Organisation. And when you research it on Companies House, it comes up with Regional Health Limited. And look at the address, Bourne Valley Road, Paul in Dorset. This address features throughout the fraud and links in very closely to the area of Exbourne Manor. And when you look at the company, on the overview, it dissolved in 2024 as I'm continuing to expose the fraud. Around the same time, actually, it was either February or March that Thomas Kingston died, who's linked to the royal family. That'll all be connected to this. He worked for Schroders, which shows throughout the research. But it was incorporated in February 2019, the same year as the outbreak. And look at the nature of the business. Remember, Companies House have created this record, and the nature of the business is other letting and operating of own or leased real estate. Well, I think from the name Regional Health Limited, we can confirm that that is a forgery. You can tell straight away it's not that. And yet here they are. That has been created and been allowed to stay as a record. Another company, just quickly researching the the World Health Organization. Quick check comes back with two companies. Here's one of them. The United Kingdom World Health Organization, CIC, dissolved in September 2023 as I'm exposing the fraud. Was created in 2019, again, the same year as the outbreak. Another company here, the World Public Health Organization London Limited, that comes up, dissolved in 2017. Okay, the same year as the creation of the Fleming Co. Limited that we mentioned earlier, that links the researcher Benjamin Netanyahu, the Iranian leader, and also Donald Trump to the fraud. And on its incorporation document, Quick Access Formations, that links to the fraud and very quickly to some of the to the shareholders in companies in Export Manor. And when you go into the company, this person on the left links to, on the right, UK Expert Professionals Limited. When we go into UK Expert Professionals Company, Graham Michael Cohen links to nearly 6,000 companies. This is what they're doing. This Companies House involved in this, okay? I suspect that's a false name or stolen identity, because to have nearly 6,000 companies to your name, very unlikely. And when you research it, some very interesting companies crop up when you go into that director. Everything and Anything Limited, Congestion Charge Limited. We're all aware of the congestion charges in the cities now, aren't we, around the world? All part of this fraud, I'm afraid, giving them funds to exploit and victimise you further and pay for their addictions, but also potentially the money they're pumping in to the Hadron Colliders, which seems to be their key collective project, okay, international governments. And here we have link Michael Owen Limited, footballer, and there's loads of football companies that come in from this. I'm only just showing you some of it. And as we know, that then links in through to the Olympic Games companies, tying back into everything that I've been looking at. You have a United Kingdom Limited company. This is all within that same director. And on the right, 999 Security Limited, ties in with the emergency services, according to that, and the UK Democratic Party Limited. So I've only shown you some of it, but that obviously then ties in with the democracy, which is all criminal. It's all been created criminal and fraudulently, which motivates crimes against humanity. It never needed to be, but they have. And they've been able to exploit and victimize billions of people. On the right here, we're just looking at the creation of the Church of Satan, just so we can look at this again. 30th of April, 1966, San Francisco, California, Limited. So there's a lot of 3 6s appears to be important, doesn't it? And many people have heard this, but just a quick review of it. The association of 666 with Satan or the devil primarily stems from its portrayal in the book of Revelation in the New Testament. The number is identified as the number of the beast, a figure that embodies evil and opposition, and opposes God, sorry. A little bit more research on it here. You can see in modern popular culture, 666 has become one of the most widely recognised symbols for the Antichrist, or alternatively the devil. Earnest references to the number occur both among apocalypticists, Christian groups, and in explicitly anti-Christian subcultures. References in contemporary Western art or literature are more likely than not intentional references to the beast system. Now remember, the Flemings are part of a church group. Okay, this includes the 2 Flemings that initiated the removal of me from the company for refusing to commit a crime. There's no moral conscience, which was given to us by our Creator clearly to protect us all, but they've gone completely against it. The whole system is completely the opposite of truth, transparency, and trust. It's all about deception, exploitation, victimization, and suffering. Okay, so it's not of our Creator. These people are deceivers, are criminals, and deceivers against humanity. Talking of the Baphomet earlier, this is just some screenshot taken from the Satanic Temple United Kingdom document. I've done some videos on this. They've actually got a company, okay, created called the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Company. And when you go in through it, they've tried to hide it through a duplicate record. It links back into everything I'm exposing again, back into the links to the CERN as well. And importantly, this company that we're looking at here, which is the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And that was a key company started in 2009. We're going to look at that in a minute. Becomes relevant. And the release of my evidence in relation to this and the threat of directed energy, which we now know links into CERN and also, I believe, the cell towers, that was released on the 14th of May 2024. And it showed and proved connections to the royal family. And on that very day, they released the portrait of King Charles, which was very satanic and has an inverted image, or what appears to be an inverted image, of a horned head. You just about see it here. And it remarkably resembles the Baphomet. And we've just been talking about the beast system. Okay, well, this is a beast. It's got a goat's head. Okay, and this is the symbol of the Church of Satan. And you can see the Star of David on the top on his forehead, which then links in with the cube of Satan and Saturn and all sorts. Okay, now that ties in with the, when you research the Baphomet, you will see that it links in to the Knights Templar, and the research suggests that the Freemasons came or evolved from the Knights Templar. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, when I've done a bit of research around Jeffrey Epstein and the links to CERN, which we're going to come to a bit more in detail in a minute, another company cropped up, okay? We've got the other three that we mentioned there at the top, but also in Geneva, we have Lucis, okay? And in a minute, a bit later, we'll come to this bit at the bottom as well here, which says that in 2016 at CERN, in front of the Shiva statue, there was a ritual. And I suspect I know why, and we're going to come to that a little bit later. So the Lucis Company, formerly known as Lucifer Publishing Company, okay, it's literally there, isn't it, is a non-profit service organisation incorporated in the United States in 1922, 100 years before I started making the inquiries and finding out what I did leading to all of this, by Alice Baylor and her husband, Foster Bailey, to act as a fiduciary for the publishing of 24 books of esoteric occult philosophy. Okay, the Church of Satan is an occult, but I do believe it's been infiltrated, and we're going to look at evidence like that about that later. And I think what they're trying to do is make it look like Satan. Now, I'm not saying Satan doesn't exist, but they're deliberately trying to make it look like Satan, okay, because I believe evil exists, okay, but I also believe good exists. I believe lies exist, and I believe truth exists, the opposite to everything pretty much. Okay, but these people are basing everything on deceit, like I've said. So this company was created then, and a bit of researching surrounding it says that Lucius Publishing Company was founded in the early 1920s as the Lucifer Publishing Company. The name has been attributed to the Bailey study of theosophical teachings that Lucifer, the archangel, brought intelligence to mankind. The name was changed in 1925 to Lucis Publishing Company. It has headquarters in New York City, London, and Geneva in Switzerland. So these dates, 1920s to 1930s, why is that important? Well, it's important, I believe, because of the Pharaohism movement. Okay? It was an ideology that rose to prominence in Egypt in the 1920s and 1930s, a version of Egyptian nationalism. It argued for the existence of an Egyptian national continuity from ancient history to the modern era, stressing the role of ancient Egypt in incorporating anti-colonial sentiment. Pharaohism's most notable advocate was the Taha Hussein. The movement largely faded in the 1940s, having failed to resonate with most Egyptians, and was superseded by Pan-Arabianism and Islamism. Okay, now I suspect that these people behind this, because there's a lot of Egyptian references that we're going to look at later, have infiltrated all faith groups, but in particular Islam, and that ties in with what we're going to be looking at in a bit, and the Green Movement. So also in 1954, you have... Now, I suspect this document is an authentic document. I can't confirm it. It's the Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars document, and we're going to look at a bit of information on this because it seems to set out a lot of what we're now looking at and their plans, and it's very, very sinister. And this is the first page of it. And it says, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, top secret. This astonishing document was discovered in a surplus copier purchased from Boeing aircraft in 1986. Now, Boeing are massively implicated in this fraud as well. It reveals details of a plan hatched in the embryonic days of the Cold War, which called for the control of the masses through a manipulation of industry, people's pastimes, education, and political earnings. It called for a quiet revolution, pitting brother against brother and diverting the public's attention from what is really going on. For all intents and purposes, this document has come to pass, reprinted to its original form, including diagrams. Now, it's quite a big document, so we're not going to look at all of it, but here's a few sections that I've taken. So they're talking about how they can control humanity. It says the solution of today's problems requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid, with no agonizing over religious, moral, This is important. No moral or cultural values. Now, moral conscience is incredibly important, and they've come from it. And I've said, moral conscience is where we use our ability to determine between right and wrong before we carry out our actions. It enabled us to determine our actions. If you remove that, you have a world of sin, don't you? You have a world of not even thinking about what's wrong. You just do it anyway. And this is what a big part of what we're seeing. And it's a decision you make, okay? And that decision is changed by rationality. If we're not thinking rationally, then generally we've all made immoral decisions, whether that be we speak to someone we wouldn't normally do when we're thinking rationally because we've had a drink, or we shout at somebody because we're tired and angry because we've been overworked, etc. With rationality and clarity, moral conscience is the most important thing in the world, because it's how we treat others. It's how we want to be treated. We wouldn't want to be stolen from, abused, insulted, or have anything to happen to our children. So generally, we don't do that to anybody else. If you remove that rationality, then that's where we start to creep into the realms of sin and the problems that we're now looking at. And this is deliberate by the system they have in place. Okay, these people are linked to the pharmaceutical side of things, which affects people's rationality. The radiation, the poisoning of the food, air, water, the drug supply, the tobacco supply, the alcohol supply, the mental health issues. They're controlling all of it because it suppresses us, because when we're irrational, we are not as powerful as we are. Psychologically, we're not thinking clearly, and therefore we can't establish the truth. We'll become confused, and they know that. So it's this that has removed the rationality, which has removed the moral conscience, which removes our Creator, because that came from our Creator to protect us all. Anyway, I've waffled quite a lot there, and I haven't had a chance to read the rest of this. So I'll just read this last little bit, and then we'll go to the next part. So with no agonising over religious, moral or cultural values, you have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity. There you go, cold. And yet analyse and discuss your observations and collusions with others of similar intellectual capacity without a loss of discretion or humility. Such virtues are exercised in your own best interest. Do not deviate from them. Wow, unbelievable. Come back to the next part, please, and we'll look more at this document.